Think about the last time you ate ice cream. Now ask yourself, before that first bite, did you ever stop and wonder how it was actually made? Probably not. Because ice cream feels simple. Milk, sugar, flavor. But here is what you are actually eating. A precisely engineered four-phase foam, held together by fat globules, shattered to 1 micron, stabilized by seaweed extracts, frozen at temperatures that would kill a human in minutes, and pumped full of enough air that half your scoop might be nothing but empty space. That air is not a mistake. It is the only reason your ice cream does not freeze into a solid block. And the engineering required to make this happen did not appear overnight. It began 2,500 years ago in the deserts of ancient Persia. This is how ice cream is really made, from raw milk to the hardening tunnel at -40 degrees Celsius. The journey of ice cream begins around 400 BCE, in the royal courts of the Achaemenid Empire in Persia. The summers there were brutal, and the solution was snow, collected from mountain peaks by servants and stored in underground structures called yakchals, cone-shaped refrigeration chambers that could preserve ice through the hottest months. Royalty drank chilled grape juice, concentrate poured over this snow, and the drink was called falude. In parts of Iran, people still consume it today. At roughly the same time, Chinese nobles were experimenting with a different method, mixing rice and milk, packing it in snow, and letting it freeze into a primitive frozen dessert. By the Tang dynasty in the 7th century, records describe frozen desserts made from buffalo milk, flour, and camphor for flavoring. Neither the Persians nor the Chinese had what we would call ice cream yet, but they had cracked the fundamental idea. The next leap came from the Arabs. Medieval Arabic texts from the 10th century describe sharbat, sweetened, frozen drinks made from fruit juices and mountain snow. The word eventually traveled through languages to become sherbet in English and sorbet in French. Arab traders carried these techniques across the Mediterranean, and by the 16th century, Italian chefs in the Medici court of Florence had turned frozen desserts into an art form. When Catherine de' Medici married King Henry II of France in 1533, Italian chefs traveled with her, and frozen desserts spread through European aristocracy. The person credited with creating the first true dairy-based ice cream was a Sicilian named Francesco Procopio dei Coltelli. In 1686, he opened Café Procopi in Paris, serving a frozen cream dessert made with milk, cream, butter, and eggs. Essentially gelato before anyone used that word. The café still operates today, nearly 340 years later. But ice cream remained a luxury for the wealthy for another 2 centuries because it required ice, which had to be harvested from frozen lakes in winter, stored in insulated ice houses, and shipped at enormous cost. A single serving in 18th century London cost roughly what a working person earned in an entire week. 2 19th century inventions changed everything. In 1843, an American woman named Nancy Johnson patented the hand-cranked ice cream freezer, a wooden bucket with a metal cylinder inside surrounded by ice and salt. The salt lowered the freezing point of the ice, allowing the cream mixture to freeze while the crank kept it moving, preventing large ice crystals from forming. This single invention took ice cream from palace kitchens to ordinary homes. In 1851, Jacob Fussell, a milk dealer in Baltimore, built the first commercial ice cream factory. Fussell had a practical problem. His dairy business was producing excess cream that was going to waste. His solution was to turn it into ice cream and sell it at half the price of competitors. The concept spread rapidly, and by the end of the 19th century, industrial ice cream production had arrived. The 20th century then added mechanical refrigeration, which eliminated natural ice, and continuous freezing technology in the 1920s, which replaced batch freezing and allowed factories to produce ice cream in a flowing stream rather than one container at a time. That continuous process is what we are about to walk through. Modern ice cream begins with the base mix, a calculated formula combining milk fat, milk solids, not fat, sweeteners, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and water. In the United States, ice cream must legally contain at least 10% milk fat. Premium varieties push that to 14 to 18%. Anything below 10% cannot legally be called ice cream. It must be labeled as ice milk or frozen dairy dessert. The mixing starts in massive stainless steel tanks holding 5,000 to 20,000 liters of liquid. Fresh milk, cream, and condensed skim milk enter first. Then dry ingredients are added through a high-speed powder disperser. Sugar, milk powder, stabilizers like gargum or carrageenan, and emulsifiers such as mono and diglycerides. The stabilizers perform a critical function. They bind water molecules so they cannot migrate and form large ice crystals during storage. At concentrations of just 0.2 to 0.5% of the total mix weight, these ingredients determine whether the ice cream stays smooth for months or turns grainy within days. This raw mix is pasteurized in a plate heat exchanger at 80 to 85 degrees Celsius for 15 to 30 seconds, a process called high-temperature short-time, or HTST pasteurization. The temperature is precisely controlled. Too low, and bacteria survive. Too high, and the milk proteins denature, creating a cooked flavor. Immediately after pasteurization, the hot mix enters the homogenizer. Homogenization is where the physical engineering begins. The machine forces the liquid through a tiny valve at extreme pressure, typically 2,000 to 2,500 pounds per square inch in the first stage, followed by 500 psi in the second stage. This shatters the natural fat globules, which start at roughly 4 to 10 microns in diameter, down to less than 1 micron. Unhomogenized fat would rise to the surface, clump together, and create a greasy separated mess. Homogenized fat globules, coated with milk proteins, stay suspended evenly throughout the mix. Later, during freezing, these tiny fat particles provide the scaffolding for the foam structure that traps air bubbles. Without homogenization, the air would escape, and the ice cream would collapse into a dense slurry. After homogenization, the mix is rapidly cooled to 4 degrees Celsius and transferred to aging tanks, where it rests for 4 to 24 hours. During aging, the milk fat crystallizes, the stabilizers fully hydrate and swell, and the milk proteins rearrange themselves at the fat-water interface. Skipping or shortening aging produces ice cream with weak body and poor texture. After aging, liquid flavors, colors, and inclusions are injected in line just before freezing. For vanilla ice cream, pure vanilla extract or vanilla bean specks are dosed at 0.3 to 0.5% of the total mix weight. For chocolate, cocoa powder is pre-blended and pumped in as a slurry. Then the mix enters the continuous freezer, the heart of the entire operation. The continuous freezer is a horizontal, jacketed stainless steel cylinder. Liquid ammonia or freon circulates on the outside at -30 degrees Celsius. Inside, a rotating dasher scrapes the freezing mixture off the cylinder walls at a 150 to 300 RPM while simultaneously whipping air into it. The mix enters at 4 degrees Celsius and exits at approximately -5 to -6 degrees Celsius, cold enough to be semi-solid, warm enough to still flow. At this temperature, 30 to 50% of the water in the mix has frozen into microscopic ice crystals. This is where overrun happens, and overrun controls the entire economics and texture of ice cream. Overrun is the percentage of air incorporated relative to the original mix volume. Start with 1 liter of mix and end with 2 liters of ice cream. That is 100% overrun, meaning half of what you are eating is air. Economy ice creams push overrun as high as 100 to 120%. Premium brands keep it at 60 to 80%. Super premium brands like Häagen-Dazs keep it near 20 to 40%. Dense, heavy, and expensive. The dasher's scraping action also controls ice crystal size, with the industry target being 25 to 35 microns. The human tongue can detect crystals above 50 microns as coarse or icy. The semi-frozen ice cream exiting the continuous freezer has the consistency of soft serve. Solid inclusions, chocolate chips, cookie dough, nuts, are added at this stage through a rotating ingredient feeder with pockets that drop precise amounts into the stream. The feeder handles chunks up to 25 millimeters in diameter without crushing them. For molded products like ice cream bars, the ice cream is extruded into stainless steel molds on a continuous chain. The molds pass through a brine solution at -35 degrees Celsius, freezing the bars solid in 15 to 25 minutes. Then the bars are released by briefly warming the mold surface and dipped into a waterfall of liquid chocolate at 40 degrees Celsius. The chocolate flash sets on contact with the frozen ice cream, forming a hard shell in seconds. For tubs and pints, filling machines deposit exact weights into containers. Lids are applied, date codes are printed, and the containers move toward the hardening tunnel, a blast freezer where air temperatures reach -30 to -40 degrees Celsius. The containers travel through this frozen wind tunnel for 20 to 30 minutes, dropping their core temperature from -6 to -25 degrees Celsius or lower. At this point, approximately 80 to 85% of the water is frozen, and the ice crystals are locked at their microscopic size. The industry standard storage temperature is -28.9 degrees Celsius, exactly -20 degrees Fahrenheit, where the ice cream remains structurally stable for months. But temperature fluctuation is the real enemy. Every time the freezer door opens, every time the shipping truck cycles its cooling, the ice crystals partially melt and refreeze, growing larger each cycle. This process, called heat shock, progressively destroys the texture. Heat-shocked ice cream becomes grainy because the precisely controlled 25 to 35 micron crystal structure has been lost. Now let me explain what ice cream actually is at the structural level. It is a four-phase system existing simultaneously. Phase 1. Ice crystals. Pure frozen water, 25 to 35 microns. Phase 2. Air cells, distributed at 20 to 70 microns, stabilized by partially coalesced fat. Phase 3. Fat globules, homogenized to under 1 micron, clustered around air bubbles as a protective shell. Phase 4. The unfrozen serum phase, a concentrated sugar solution that never freezes completely, even at minus 25 degrees Celsius, because sugar depresses the freezing point of water. This unfrozen phase is essential because if all the water froze, the ice cream would be a solid block. The sugar-water solution stays liquid, coating the tongue and delivering flavor while the ice crystals provide coldness and the fat provides creaminess. The air cells provide scoopability. Remove any single phase, and the product ceases to be ice cream. The emulsifiers, mono and diglycerides, perform a specific function during freezing. They displace milk proteins from the surface of fat globules, making the fat partially unstable. This allows fat globules to clump together around air bubbles, a process called partial coalescence. These clumped fat networks physically stabilize the air bubbles, preventing them from escaping or merging. Without partial coalescence, the foam collapses. The grading system makes the differences between ice creams explicit. Economy grade uses exactly 10% milk fat, the legal minimum, with 100 to 120% overrun, plus artificial flavors and colors. A half-gallon tub weighs roughly 1.1 kilograms. Standard grade bumps fat to 10 to 12%, with 80 to 100% overrun. Premium grade moves to 12 to 15% fat, 60 to 80% overrun. Super premium, the Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry's tier, uses 16 to 18% milk fat, 20 to 40% overrun, and real vanilla, real fruit, real chocolate. The weight tells the story. Hold 2 containers of identical volume side by side. The heavier one has less air, more fat, and costs more. But you are buying ice cream, not whipped frozen foam. The global ice cream market was valued at approximately $93 billion in 2024, with projections reaching $152 billion by 2034. More than 13.5 billion liters of ice cream are consumed worldwide every year. The average American eats roughly 9 kilograms, about 20 pounds, annually. New Zealand leads per capita consumption at 28.4 liters per person per year. The future of ice cream manufacturing is moving in 3 directions. First, precision fermentation, using engineered microorganisms to produce milk proteins without cows, creating dairy-identical ice cream with a fraction of the environmental footprint. Second, 3D printed ice cream, extruding customized shapes and multi-layer structures impossible with traditional molding. And third, nitrogen-frozen micro-batch production for premium artisanal brands, where freezing happens at minus 196 degrees Celsius in seconds, producing ice crystals so small the human tongue cannot perceive them as individual particles. The 2,500-year journey from Persian mountain snow to industrial hardening tunnels at minus 40 degrees Celsius is a story of thermodynamics, food chemistry, and mechanical engineering. The product feels simple, but is not. The next time you open a tub of ice cream, remember what you are looking at. A 4-phase foam system engineered at the micron scale, stabilized by seaweed extracts and milk proteins, preserved at temperatures colder than a winter night in Antarctica. All of that engineering serves one purpose: to melt on your tongue, not in your hand.